Traveling around Ontario for the past couple of weeks, east and west, north and south. Sometimes it's hard to keep straight where we have been. Brampton and Brantford, Brockville, and now it's Barrie. It's the Vinyl Cafe Spring Tour brought to you by the letter B. Me and my special musical guest, I'm almost embarrassed to say it, Bahamas. A little bit, yeah, well, more about Bahamas in a moment. That was Bahamas' mom who introduced us. A little bizarre, but a beautiful, bountiful thing nevertheless. And the point is, I'm not sure what the point is. The point is, we're glad to be here in Barrie, and I'm glad that you're here too. We have a great show for you today. Plus some great music, and that is where we're going to start. And I'm just delighted to introduce you to our special musical guest. When I think of his music, I find myself thinking of my literary hero, E.B. White, the Charlotte Webb guy. He made his living writing for The New Yorker. He edited the front of the magazine, a section known as the Talk of the Town. And he also edited what is considered by many to be the best book ever written about writing, a sparse little volume called The Elements of Style, but referred to in the literary world by the name of the two authors, Strunk and White. One of the rules of The Elements of Style, and I do have a musical point here that I'm working towards. One of the rules says that a good writer should always omit needless words. There is a beauty in sparseness, in simplicity. As White says, a sentence should contain no unnecessary words, and a paragraph no unnecessary sentences, for the same reason that a drawing should have no unnecessary lines or a machine unnecessary parts. Good writers aren't the only ones to pray at the altar of sparseness. Good chefs do that. Good carpenters do that, and so do good musicians. Seems the better people get at any craft, the more they are attracted to the idea of simplicity. Simple words, simple ingredients, simple notes. Doing more with less. Our musical guest today understands that, and that's what makes him so irresistible to me. I have played his most recent record, Bar Chords, over and over and over. I love its sparseness, and I love its elegant simplicity in the words, the instrumentation, and the production. And so I am just delighted to introduce him to you today, if an introduction is necessary, and I suspect it won't be because he grew up right here in Barrie, Ontario. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome Bahamas.
Well, there's a lot of pressure, because my mother's here tonight. She introduced the show tonight. She did a really good job, don't you think? I'm usually the opening act for my mom, so this is a bit of a role reversal. She's opening for me tonight. That's pretty exciting.
Would you tell me if I caused you pain? Would it shock you, baby, to know I felt the same? Would you share with me some of your doubt? Would you let me help you if I could help you out? I couldn't give you all that you wanted. I couldn't even give you half of what you wanted if I wanted to. Be my witness, be my bride. I'm on the edge of something that I can't hide. Would you go there if I go there too? Would you give me all of your love if I gave all mine to you? Would you come back if I called your name? 'Cause it won't shock me, baby, if you say you feel the same. I couldn't give you all that you wanted. I couldn't even give you half of what you wanted if I wanted to. Be my witness, be my bride. I'm on the edge of something that I can't hide. Be my witness, be my bride. I'm on the edge of something and on your side.
Time now for the Vinyl Cafe Story Exchange. Well, you know how this works. This is the part of the show where you send us your stories. They have to be true stories and they have to be short, but after that, they don't have to be anything at all. After that, it's up to you. We promise we'll read everything you send us, and we promise we'll read some of our favorites right here on the radio. If we choose to read your story on the radio, we promise we'll send you a copy of our latest book. It's called Time Now for the Vinyl Cafe Story Exchange, a collection of stories from the first 10 years of this section. We have one today from A.J. Mittendorf of Nanaimo, British Columbia. Dear Stuart, writes A.J., I taught high school and college English for a total of 25 years. And while I always like to have fun in my classes, I was a stickler for proper grammar. It earned me the nickname Conan the Grammarian. Life, in its infinite forces of whimsy, however, made it necessary for me to accept a layoff from my lucrative and prestigious position as a college English instructor. And so I began a more public job as a sales associate at Sears. I'd been working there for less than a year when I noticed a trend in the speech patterns of Sears' clientele. It prompted my inner Conan to reemerge. Redundancies. Redundancies are common in the works of first and second year college writers, and that's why I'm so skilled at hearing them. Examples I gleaned from my students include things like, I thought in my head. Now tell me, Stuart, where can people do their thinking other than in their heads? Or how about, I thought to myself? It's fair enough for people to talk to themselves, but is there someone a person can think to other than him or herself? The redundancies that I hear from Sears customers are more subtle. People don't ask for shoes for their feet. but they do request things like ladies' dresses or men's athletic supports. As the gregarious grammarian that I am, I began meekly pointing out these redundancies, if only to help customers smile as they shopped. When someone asked me for outdoor umbrellas, I lightheartedly responded, "They're next to the indoor umbrellas." Or when they asked for ladies' bras, I cheerfully said, "They're beside the men's bras." For bathroom toiletries, I indicated kitchen toiletries. For kitchen stoves, living room stoves. And on and on and on. I tell you, Stuart, there was no need to hunt for material. Alas, I responded more quickly with each opportunity. This went on for about a week, with a modicum of success, I might add. Customers would either laugh or they'd respond with a sense of awe. "I never thought of it like that," they'd say. It ended abruptly, however, one evening just before closing, when a group of young women, obviously expectant mothers, asked me, "Where are the children's toys?" I know what you're thinking, Stuart. You're thinking, please tell me you didn't. Sadly, I did. Before I understood what I was saying, I had already said it. Right next to the adult toys. Fortunately, as I blushed and covered my face with both hands, the ladies laughed uproariously. My inner Conan the grammarian hasn't shown his face at Sears since. The story came to us from A.J. Mittendorf of Nanaimo, British Columbia. So I should just note here that A.J. Mittendorf of Nanaimo, BC, that is his third appearance on the Vinyl Cafe Story Exchange. I don't think no one's made 3 times before. We've had, I think, 10,000 submissions over the years, and we've had a whole bunch that we would have loved to have put on the show and never have, but AJ's made it. Has anyone else made it twice, Jess? One other person? 2 other people. So 2 people have made 2 appearances, but AJ is the first one with a hat trick. I think one of them is in the book. I think Birthday Suit is in the book, where AJ remembers being, I think it was his 16th birthday, and he has a crush on the neighbor girl, or she has a crush on him, or one or the other, and she comes over with her mom to give him a box of cookies on his birthday, and AJ is downstairs in the basement showering, and the parents don't tell him. The neighbors have dropped in, and he comes up with a towel wrapped around his waist, and he's standing there mortified as a nearly nude 16-year-old, and the girl, who is also mortified, tries to make things better by looking at AJ standing there clutching the towel, and she says, "Hey, AJ, I made you some cookies. Catch." Oh, yeah. AJ's got a well-deserved hat trick. Yeah. We're going to get Bahamas to do another song. This is a song that I absolutely adore. I've listened to this song over and over and over again. It's from his album Bar Chords, Lost in the Light.
Lost in the light, I pray for the night to take me, to take you to. After so many words, still nothing's heard. Don't know what we should do. And if someone could see me now, let them see you. was my greatest thrill when we just stood still. You let me hold your hand till I had my fill. But even counting sheep don't help me sleep. I just toss and turn right there beside you. So if someone could see me now, let them see you. Let them see you through all those hard things we've all got to do. 'Cause this life is long, so you wouldn't be wrong being free, leaving me on my own. I held my own, still I rattled your bones. I said some awful things, I'd take them all back. If we would try again, and just remember when, before we were lovers, I swear we were friends. So if someone could see me now, let them see you. Let them see you through all those hard things we've all gotta do. 'Cause this life is long, so you wouldn't be wrong being free, leaving me on my own.
Well, thanks very much. I'm sure you guys have heard all kinds of tales about the show business and music business and all the wild things that go on. And I think about that now because a few days ago, just before we were about to leave for this tour, Jess, the producer of the show, asked if I would want to ride on the tour bus with Stuart McLean. And I had all these wild things go through my mind. I don't know if any of you have ever been on a tour bus, but there's a lot of inspiration can take place on those kind of places, you know. And so, we've been hanging out there for a few days, and it's all been pretty wholesome and pretty tame. And then today, I saw Stuart rushing from the back of the bus, and he ran up to the driver, and he said, "Pull over, at the next exit. There's a great place to get smoked salmon." And I realized, right at that moment, that this is the perfect tour for me. It's it's really been wonderful. So thanks so much for having us. All right, now we'll do. I have a new album that'll come out. I'm sure you guys have heard that the music industry is in a bit of a sad state, but I'm going to push on. I'm going to still put these things out there. I know that the internet swallows them up pretty quickly, but I'll play a new song from that recording. I hope you enjoy it. It's called Stronger Than That.
in the hell does one heart swell to the size of a beast with a bark like a big kick drum? Tell me, what does it take to get a mouth that makes every old man around you seem so young? And I know you're afraid of falling flat, and I know those walls are up against your back, and I know there are those who'd see a crack, but I know that you're stronger than that. You're feeling bad, wave your hand at a cab and hitch a ride to the other side of the town. I'll be standing there to pay the taxi's fare and lend an ear or a beer to a friend who's down. And I know you're afraid of falling flat, and I know those walls are up against your back, and I know there are those who'd see a crack, but I know that you're stronger than that. Thanks very much.
Bahamas. So, summer came and summer went. Sashayed through town like a girl in a cotton dress. Languid, long of leg, and just saucy enough to turn more than one head. Slow enough, too, so everyone who turned caught at least one more glimpse before she disappeared. But September turned to October, and the nights turned chilly, and the leaves began to turn, and pretty soon all that was left of summer was summer memories. It was the summer that Kenny Wong's restaurant, Wong's Scottish Meat Pies, I've always liked that one too, took a bad turn. Oh, the regulars still came, but the new burrito place down the street and the vegan cafe around the block were siphoning off some of the lunchtime traffic. Kenny had to lay off a chef and return to the kitchen himself for the first time in years. It was the summer that Dave's neighborhood nemesis, Mary Turlington, had her infamous meltdown at the Bistro Wilmette. It's not clear what transpired in that little cafe. Mary was, safe to assume, wound up as tight as a 7-day clock. The conflagration, which is what the local paper called it, the conflagration had something to do with a "please wait to be seated" sign, and the fact that a lot of waiting, but not a lot of seating, was going on. But what exactly happened, no one knows for sure. There was a dust up, and that much is certain. And the restaurant hostess did go on sick leave. And Mary did end up at the family doctor. It was the doctor who delivered the ultimatum: either psychotherapy or meditation. Choose one. You have to chill out, were his exact words. You have to be kidding, said Mary. Surely there's a chemical option? If this was Vancouver, there'd be a chemical option. Doctor didn't bat an eye. There is lockup, he said. Okay, I'll meditate, said Mary, but I will not chant or go to an ashram. Ash, said the doctor. ashram. They gave her the name of a private meditation teacher, and she had her first class Labor Day weekend. She had to sit for half hour a day, doing nothing. She found it insufferable, but she persevered. Finally, and surely most unsettlingly, it was the summer that Jim Schofield had his heart attack. The episode, said Jim. It was an episode. Except it was more than an episode. Jim went to the emergency room at 3 in the morning with all the classic symptoms. Indigestion, a pain that started in his chest and radiated down his arm and up into his jaw, and a general sense of doom. Well, I always have a general sense of doom, said Jim. Wasn't a serious attack. I didn't lose any heart function, said Jim. But it was serious enough. It was a warning shot, said Dave. I guess, said Jim. Anyway, summer is done and dusted. The leaves are dying, but Jim is fine. He had bypass and went through rehab, stopped smoking, started exercising, a walking program. Whatever works, said Dave. The idea of losing Jim was intolerable. It's not clear who thought up the defibrillator. You're joking, said Jim. Well, not for you, said Dave. It's for everyone. It's for the neighborhood. This is a high-risk neighborhood. Lots of men over 50. The idea was they'd all chip in and then store it somewhere central. If they could get 10 families, it'd be less than $200 each. Well, in the end, there were 12 families who chipped in, so there was money left over, and they used the extra money to hire a trainer, and they organized a barbecue, and they sat around eating burgers and fries and studying CPR. You know it's true. So, August came and August went. September, too. And the pretty girl in the summer dress disappeared down the street and into the crowd. And Jim was fine, and Kenny was back in the kitchen, and Mary, who did not enjoy the meditation business one bit, not one little bit, was working away nevertheless, laying there on her bed half hour a day, counting her breaths in and then out, smiling at her breath as it came in and smiling at it as it went out, trying to ignore all the thoughts that bounced into her mind and the infernal racket of the world around her. And the best place for the defibrillator, the most central, accessible place in the neighborhood, turned out to be, by general consensus, everyone agreed, Dave and Morley's garage. And you don't need me to tell you that that just wasn't a good idea. At the start, everyone treated it, the defibrillator, with great earnestness. But it wasn't long before it became, like everything else in the neighborhood, a source of merriment. Trainer said they should practice, should have drills. You need to do what he said so you can do it without thinking in case you ever have to do it for real. And so someone drew up a schedule, and they gathered in little groups on Saturday afternoons in Dave's garage. Dave, Carl Lobier, and Bert Turlington one Saturday, hanging around the way guys do, until one of them said, "Okay, let's do it." And Dave said, "I'll be victim." And he clutched his chest dramatically, moaned a little, staggered around a bit, and then he lay himself gingerly down on the garage floor. Bert looked at Carl and said, "You go first, I'll time you." Carl nodded, and Bert pulled out his phone. Now, for all intents and purposes, the thing was foolproof. When you attach it to someone, the first thing it does is evaluate their heart rhythm. It has to recognize a life-threatening rhythm before it recommends administering a shock. Let me tell you how it works here. You turn it on, and it gives you step-by-step voice instructions. Remove the patient's shirt. Pull the sticker off the first pad. All you do is follow the instructions. So even if Carl had stuck the pads on Dave's chest, it wouldn't have given him a shock if he was in a healthy rhythm. And for times like this, when they were just practicing, there was safety mode. "Go," said Bert. Well, Carl ran across the garage and he popped the little lunchbox-sized machine out of the bracket on the wall, and he ran back and he knelt down beside Dave and he flipped it open and he pressed the on button. "Initiating device," said the machine. "Remove the patient's shirt." Now, they all knew this was just a scenario. They all knew the machine was in safety mode, and that Dave, lying there on the floor with his eyes closed, had not had a heart attack. But they also knew that Carl was kneeling beside a machine that was capable of delivering 200 joules of electricity. So even though they were acting all casual, as the scenario progressed, a certain seriousness settled on him. Carl unbuttoned Dave's shirt. "Okay," said Carl, "if this was real, I'd rip it open." Machine said, "Remove the sticker from the first pad." Carl said, "Okay, I'm removing the sticker." He wasn't really removing the sticker. He was just pretending, because those pads are expensive. The machine said, "Place the sticker on the patient's chest, just below the left armpit." And so it went. For the first pad and the second pad and the testing of the heart rate. And Carl's face is all screwed up in concentration now. Carl is biting on his tongue. "1 minute," said Bert. 1 minute 30. And then the machine said, "Prepare to shock the patient." Bert said, "Make sure you're not touching him anywhere. Because if you are touching the patient, you are going to get shocked too." Carl said, "Clear." And the machine said, "Shock the patient." Well, Dave clenched his fists and he scrunched up his eyes just in case. And Carl held his breath, because these things can start to feel real. These things can get intense. "Here goes," says Carl. And he pressed the red shock button. And that's when Bert, who was standing right behind Carl, leaned over so the paper bag he had blown up was no more than 6 inches from Carl's ear. "Here goes," said Carl. And then Bert pulled his hands apart and he clapped them together, and there was a tremendous explosion. Carl lifted right off the ground. It was like Carl was the one who had been shocked. Dave and Bert whooped. Dave and Bert staggered around the garage, half hysterical, pounding each other on the back, clutching onto the side of the car. Took 10 minutes for Carl to settle down. For a good 10 minutes, Carl was all fluttery and crazy, standing up and sitting down, calling the two of them unspeakable things. "I can't believe you did that. I could have had a heart attack." Bert said, "Well, we got the defibrillator for that." And that's when Ted Anderson walked up the driveway. And Carl got all earnest all of a sudden. Said, "Hey, Ted, I just finished. It's your turn. Let me time you." And there was Bert hiding behind the car, inflating a new paper bag. And so went the autumn. Bags popping and leaves bursting into orange and red. And then came the smoky afternoons, as the reds faded to yellow, the yellows to brown, and then everything to gray. Pretty soon, the defibrillator in Dave's garage was just another summer memory. Not forgotten, but no longer the first thing you thought about on a Saturday morning. No longer a preoccupation. Except for Dave, of course. I mean, come on, it was in his garage. He did walk by it morning and night. And you stare at something like that day in and day out. It's only natural that you're going to start obsessing about what it would be like to use in real life. Be godlike, the power to give life. In emergency rooms, the ER doctors call it riding the lightning. It has baby pads, said Dave to his pal Kenny one day at lunch. Dave was sitting at the back counter at Kenny's cafe. He was waving his hand over a steaming plate of dumplings. It still delivers a shock, he said, but a kid-appropriate amount. Even the adult pads wouldn't kill you, if you were shocked. By accident, I mean. Get your attention. Knock you around a bit. But it wouldn't kill you. Would stop your heart. But your heart would start again. And those were the adult pads. What harm could the infant pads do? No way, said Kenny. Come on, said Dave. Take off your shirt for science. He just wanted to try them so badly. How about your dog, said Dave. There is just so much wrong with that, said Kenny. They settled on a 12-pound roast. A rump roast. They got out of Kenny's cooler. They took it over to Dave's house, took it out to the garage, shut the garage doors, duct taped the roast to the pads so they wouldn't have to hold on to it. And they let her rip. And what happened was a lot of nothing. Sort of disappointing, said Dave. He was hoping it would bounce around or something. He was remembering Carl. The roast didn't even quiver. Nothing. Until the next morning, when the phone rang earlier than you would expect. Get over here, said Kenny. Well, when he got over there, Kenny served him the tenderest piece of beef he had ever tried. Next night, they got another roast. Tried out the adult pads. They only seemed to toughen the meat up. Was it possible they had stumbled on the sweet spot on the first try? Was it beginner's luck, said Kenny. Well, they set off to find out. They took a big bag of roasts over to Dave's garage, and they tried them on pretty much all the possible settings. They spent hours out there in the garage working on this. What are you doing out there, said Morley. Oh, nothing, said Dave. We're not doing anything. But they were doing something. Kenny was serving twice as much beef and broccoli as he'd ever sold. And then the bone-white moon of winter slipped into the sky. And the stars doubled and moved further away, or seemed to. The sky deepened is what happened. And the nights were long and cold. Until one morning, out of nowhere, someone said, I woke early for no reason. And someone else said, me too. The crows were back. Pretty soon, the robins were back too. That was April. Then came May, the lusty month of May. Kenny was selling so much beef, he opened a backyard patio. Stayed open for dinner for the first time ever. Jim, who had been walking in malls since November, started walking outside again. And Mary Turlington moved her daily meditation from her bedroom to the back garden. And the sorry problem with that is that when you're standing on Dave's back porch, you can see clearly over the back fence into the Turlington's yard. And the problem with that is what you'd see is Mary splayed out on the ground, ominously still. We're getting to the part of the story you've been waiting for right here. And you can understand that it might be easy to jump to the wrong conclusion, especially if there happens to be a defibrillator in your garage. Cheer up. Hello? Called Dave, little tentatively. Because when disaster comes calling, no matter how prepared you might be, no matter how much you think you are courting it, disaster is never a welcome thing. Hey, called Dave again. He's walking toward the fence now, thinking to himself, Mary must be asleep. But no matter how many times he called, Mary didn't wake up. Mary didn't move. So now we have Dave running for his garage. We're going to take a little break here for a moment and consider all this from Mary's point of view. Mary had been working hard at her meditation all winter. Just the week before, teacher had told her she was doing very well. Didn't feel like that to Mary. Okay, once or twice she had lost track of things and entered some joyful state of, well, she wouldn't have used the word out loud. Not to you or not to me either, but to herself and to teacher. It was the only word she could come up with that described it. A state of bliss, she said. Of course, as soon as she had noticed it, as soon as she'd become aware of it, it went away. Popped just like a soap bubble. She had tried to get it back, but she couldn't. Teacher said, do not try. Teacher said, to hold on, we must let go. Just breathe. Just breathe in and breathe out. Just notice each breath. Just notice what is. I notice everything, said Mary. That's the problem. It is the problem, said teacher. But it's also the solution. Just notice and let go. Notice and let go. And that is when Mary heard the latch of her garden door open and closed. The latch on the door opened and closed, and she thought Bert must be home early. He said he would. Last fall, she would have opened her eyes and said something. Sat up, maybe, snapped at Bert. But she had progressed. She noticed the gate, and she let the gate go. Breathe in and breathe out. Mary? Mary didn't move. Not a muscle. Teacher had warned her there would be a moment like this. Every moment is a learning moment, said teacher. Breathe in and breathe out. Mary! She was not going to succumb. Now, there is no doubt a long list of things that even the most experienced meditator might find difficult to notice and let go. And one of the things at the top of that list would surely be your neighbor's hand landing on the top button of your blouse and ripping. Mary opened her eyes. Mary said, what is going on? Well, Dave had his back to her. He was fiddling with the machine. Just relax, said Dave, I'm here to help. And he whirled around and he slapped the first pad into place. Mary said, I don't think so. And she began to get up. and Dave pushed her down. And the thing is, those wires are not designed to be jostled like that. And if they are, that defibrillator is going to pick up an erratic signal and the little voice will say, "Shock the patient." Mary's husband, Bert, came home about 10 minutes later. And when he didn't find Mary inside, he went out into the backyard, where he found his wife and his neighbor lying next to each other on the grass. With his hair and her clothes in disarray. His wife was moaning. And there was the smell of something burning, as if one of them had just smoked a cigarette. Mary never meditated again. Oh, she tried, but her eyes popped open with every sound, every voice, every footstep, every distraction was just too distracting, because everything she heard was him coming her way. So she went back to her doctor, and he said, okay, and he referred her to a psychiatrist who put her on meds within 5 minutes. And there was a neighborhood meeting. And everyone there agreed it'd be best if they moved the defibrillator from Dave's garage. "For Mary's sake," said Carl, "Bert says she's having terrible nightmares." June turned to July, and July to August. And Kenny's beef sales went back to normal. Not right away, but slowly over the summer. And August turned to September. And as the nights cooled, so did the memories. And what seemed unforgettable just seemed memorable. And what seemed horrifying just seemed funny. Mary hasn't talked to Dave, mind you. Not yet. "I'll never talk to him again," she said. But she said that before. And everything always seems better with the passage of time. And the passage of time is the one sure thing we can all count on. Well, thank you, everybody. But sadly, we've come to that part of the show where it's time for us to say goodbye. I want to thank our special musical guests, Bahamas. Bill Heralt and Kyle Katasowicz did the sound this week. Lucas Simonetto was the lighting designer. David Amers, the founding producer of the Vinyl Cafe. Greg DeClute is the recording engineer. Louise Curtis is the production assistant. Julie Penner is the music producer. Meg Masters is my long-suffering editor, with special editing from Dave Morrison this week. The Vinyl Cafe is produced by Jess Milton. I'm Stuart McLean in Barrie, Ontario, and we're going to let Bahamas sing us out. So long for now.
Is it really that much sweeter on the other end of that receiver? There's no need to convert a believer, 'cause I'm already yours. I'm already yours. Well, I ain't that special someone. You should spend your life with the fun ones, or someone who makes two become one. I'm already yours. I'm already yours.
I can assure you all this is a very exciting moment on the actual CD. Just riveting.
Well, I always said don't mind me, but your love always seems to find me, always creeping up behind me. I was never yours. I was never yours.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, everybody. Go home to your families. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
For more CBC podcasts, go to cbc.ca/podcasts.